The trouble of flying your dog. A woman called an airline customer service desk asking if it was possible to fly with her dog on board. "Sure," the airline agent said, "as long as you provide your own kennel." She continued to explain that the kennel needed to be large enough for the dog to stand up, sit down, turn around, and roll over. The customer was perplexed. "I'll never be able to teach him all of that by tomorrow." Ben and his buddies were hanging out and planning an upcoming hiking trip. They had been planning their route and gathering their gear, and Ben had been dreaming about the fresh air and stunning views of the great outdoors. But when he mentioned the trip to his wife, she wasn't as enthusiastic. She had always been a bit overprotective, and the idea of Ben hiking in the wilderness with his friends made her anxious. "I don't think it's a good idea, Ben," she said, shaking her head. "What if something happens? What if you get lost?" Ben tried to reassure her, telling her that they had done this many times before and that they knew what they were doing. But his wife was not convinced. In the end, she put her foot down and told Ben that he couldn't go on the trip. Ben was disappointed, but he knew better than to argue with his wife when she was in this mood. He texted his buddies to let them know that he wouldn't be able to make it. The following week, when Ben's friends arrived at the meeting spot, they were shocked to see Ben. He was standing, smoking a cigar, smiling ear to ear, and his camping bag resting on his knees. "How did you talk your wife into letting you go, Ben?" "I didn't have to," Ben replied. "Yesterday, when I left work, I went home and slumped down in my chair with a beer to drown my sorrows because I couldn't go hiking. Then the lady snuck up behind me and covered my eyes and said, 'Surprise!' When I peeled her hands back, she was standing there in a beautiful see-through negligee, and she said, 'Carry me into the bedroom, tie me to the bed, and you can do whatever you want.' So, here I am." There's a guy who really takes care of his body. He lifts weights and jogs 5 miles every day. One morning, he looks into the mirror and admires his body. He notices that he's really suntanned all over, except one part. And he decides to do something about it. He goes to the beach, completely undresses, and buries himself in the sand, except for that one part sticking out. 2 little old ladies are strolling along the beach, and one looks down and says, "There really is no justice in the world." The other little old lady says, "What do you mean?" The first little old lady says, "Look at that." When I was 10 years old, I was afraid of it. When I was 20 years old, I was curious about it. When I was 30 years old, I enjoyed it. When I was 40 years old, I asked for it. When I was 50 years old, I paid for it. When I was 60 years old, I prayed for it. When I was 70 years old, I forgot about it. And now that I'm 80, the damn things are growing wild. A young blonde bride made her first appointment with a gynecologist and told them that she and her husband wished to start a family. "We've been trying for months now, doctor, and I don't seem to be able to get pregnant," she confessed miserably. "I'm sure we'll solve your problem," the doctor reassured her. "If you'll just take off your clothes and get up on the examination table." "Well, all right, doctor," agreed the young woman, blushing, "but I'd rather have my husband's baby." Every night, Frank would go down to his local bottle shop, get a 6-pack, bring it home and drink while watching television. One night, as he finished his last beer, the doorbell rang. Frank stumbled to the door and found a 6-foot cockroach standing there. The roach grabbed him by the collar and threw him across the room, then left. The next night, after Frank finished his 4th beer, the doorbell rang. He walked slowly to the door and found the same huge cockroach standing there. The big roach punched him in the stomach, then left. The next night, after he finished his first beer, the doorbell rang again. This time, Frank was kneed in the groin, and he doubled over in pain. Then the big roach left. The 4th night, Frank didn't drink at all. The doorbell rang. The cockroach was standing there. The roach beat the snot out of Frank and left him in a heap on the living room floor. The following day, Frank went to see his doctor. He explained the events of the previous 4 nights. I thought it might be the drink, but he belted me when I didn't have a beer. What can I do? Frank asked. Not much, I'm afraid, the doctor replied. There's just a nasty bug going around at the moment. 4 ladies were about to tee off. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a naked man sprinted across the fairway in plain sight right in front of them. They all gasped. One of them said, "Hey, I think I know that guy. It looked like, well, I'm not sure, but isn't that Dick Green?" "No," replied another lady, "I think it's a reflection of the grass." A man and woman had been married for more than 60 years. They had shared everything. They had talked about everything. They had kept no secrets from each other, except that the little old woman had a shoebox in the top of her closet that she had cautioned her husband never to open or ask her about. For all of these years, he had never thought about the box, but one day the old woman got very sick, and the doctor said she would not recover. In trying to sort out their affairs, the old man took down the shoebox and took it to his wife's bedside. She agreed that it was time that he should know what was in the box. When he opened it, he found 2 crocheted dolls and a stack of money totaling $10,000. Puzzled, he asked her about the contents. "When we were to be married," she said, "my grandmother told me the secret of a happy marriage was to never argue. She told me that if I ever got angry with you, I should just keep quiet and crochet a doll." The little old man was so moved he had to fight back tears. Only 2 precious dolls were in the box. He was touched and humbled that she had only been angry with him twice in all those years of living and loving. He almost burst with happiness. "Honey," he said, "that explains the dolls. But what about all of this money? Where did it come from?" "Oh," she said, "I made that by selling the dolls." An old Texas cowhand came riding into town on a hot, dry, dusty day. The local sheriff watched from his chair in front of the saloon as the cowboy wearily dismounted and tied his horse to the rail a few feet away. "Howdy, stranger," said the sheriff. "Howdy, sheriff," said the cowboy. The cowboy moved slowly to the back of the horse, lifted its tail, and placed a big kiss where the sun doesn't shine. Then he dropped the horse's tail, stepped up on the walk, and aimed towards the doors of the saloon. "Hold on there, mister," said the sheriff. "Did I just see what I think I saw?" "I reckon you did," answered the cowboy. "I got me some powerful chapped lips." "And does that cure them?" the sheriff asked. "Nope," the cowboy replied, "but it keeps me from licking them."